Hello there. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Friday, October 3rd. It has been a little over a week since I have vlogged. If you saw my last vlog, you know I have just been feeling very overwhelmed because I have a lot going on right now. And so I needed a little bit of a break, but I am vlogging today because we are going to the transformation room and I'm so excited. It is a Texas theme, so it has the different areas and regions of Texas. And I figured I'd bring you along with me and show you the room, what I'm doing with it. I have some glimmers, some good things to share, and then just give a general update on how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, where the overwhelm is at. So let's jump into it. So let's kick off this Friday with some glimmers, some good things, because I mentioned this in my prior vlog, but when I am feeling overwhelmed and stressed out, I have to just keep focusing on the good, not in a toxic positivity way, but just to help myself remember that even in those tough times, there is so much good. And especially with my students, I feel like there are so many little things that they do that just make them incredible. And as teachers, we don't always acknowledge that as often as we should because we get so caught up in all the other stuff that has nothing to do with them, right? Like all the meetings that we have to attend and all of the things that we have to follow and all the planning and just all of the teacher things that our students are ignorant to. Like they don't even realize are happening behind the scenes that stress us out. It can cause us to not be as present in the moment in our classroom. And sometimes those amazing things that they do just kind of get lost. And so I've been trying to really make it a point for the past week to like pick up on those little things and just tell my students how amazing they are, because they're incredible. One thing that I picked up on this past week that one of my students has started doing, and it's just, it warms my heart. I have showed you previously in vlogs, I have my like daily slides that I use to lead all of my lessons. I will link that video in case you missed it, but I updated my slides this year, and rather than making like a weekly set of slides that I would use, I am just reusing the same slides day after day and week after week and updating them as I go. And so I have links at the bottom of the slide. I'll insert a picture so you can see kind of what I'm talking about, but I just have little black rectangles at the bottom that I will click on to navigate to the different slides. And one of my students just saw me clicking on them and picked up on that. And so without any prompting, one day we were getting ready to go to specials and I looked up at the screen and I was like, how did it get to the slide that I display when my students go to specials that tell them like, hey, get out your science and social studies notebook, like use the bathroom, get in line. And all of a sudden it was just on the screen. I was like, I don't remember putting it up there, but okay. And then I paid closer attention the next day and realized I had a student who gets in line kind of right by my board, and they were switching it over to that slide because they had seen me do it. And so I just thought that that was incredible. And then to go along with that, I showed them how to like mute my music because I usually have little background instrumental music things going when students are working. And when I leave the room, I like to have it turned off so that it's not just playing when no one's in here. And so I showed them how to like mute it on my computer. And so now they like take care of that for me. And it not only makes my life easier, but it's just the fact that they saw me doing it and took initiative and started doing it themselves. It warms my little teacher heart. Okay, another thing from my students, I got a delivery earlier this week from one of my students. They had reached out to me, not them, but their family had reached out to me because they were cleaning out books at their house. And they're like, hey, we have a bunch of extra books. Like, are you interested in any of these? And they attached pictures. And I was like, y'all, that is a gold mine. You have no idea, because one of the things in there was this What Is Science and Technology collection. If you're not familiar with the What Is, Who Is, Where Is book series, I just love them. So they will take different people or places or things or events. For example, who was Galileo? And it goes through a bunch of like facts. And so it's a great text for students. It's kind of like storytelling, but I love the illustrations in it, and they're wonderful, they're fabulous. And so I got this whole kit, which is like literally brand new. Now I already went through and labeled them all. You all know, you probably saw my library label on there. So these are ready to get added into my classroom library. And another thing I'm gonna shout my students out for, yesterday during dismissal, I have 2 or 3 students who will go through my classroom library and just kind of straighten everything up. And they like picked out books that they noticed didn't have like the sticker on them and like brought it to my attention so that I could get them labeled and put in the library. Just love it. So got those, and then they also had some other kind of more random books. For example, my Big Fat Zombie Goldfish, and that's like a box set, so there's multiple in kind of the series. A lot of like graphic novels and things, Diary of an 8-Bit Warrior. So these are graphic novels and just kind of have, well, maybe not graphic novel, but like have a lot of pictures and things. Cube Kid, I don't know. This is out of my realm, but I know it's something my students are interested in. What else is back here? Oh yeah, these are super cute. Investigators. So these are graphic novels, and they're all in like fantastic condition. Yay. So ones like this I don't have a bin for, so I have stamped them with my library stamp. Just says from the library of Mrs. Emerson, but it will get added to the bookshelf rather than in a bin. So I can do that today, yay. And then I also had this delivery from Erin from my Amazon wish list, and they are little thank you cards. It's called the Thanks a Brunch Appreciation Card Set. And so they're like different puns that have to do with like food and brunch, and they're adorable. And I go through thank you cards very quickly because I write thank you cards for everything and send them home. I love like a handwritten card. Hold on. Ugh. By the way, while I try to get this out, I am exactly 1 week out from my powerlifting meet. I will compete next Friday, but I am flying out to Vegas Wednesday morning. We'll come back to that in sub-plans as I just destroy this package. Okay, but just to show you, like this one says, thanks a brunch. It's so cute. And then this says, you are the zest, instead of you are the best. Cute. And then thanks for being so kind. There's more in the pack, but I will link these. I just thought they were a cute little thank you card set. So thank you, Erin. And speaking of thank you, I believe I mentioned this in a prior vlog, or I showed the snacks that I had gotten, but yesterday was Custodian Appreciation Day. So we put together these baskets just full of a bunch of snacks for our custodians, threw in some gift cards, had my students make them some cards and put those in there. And then, of course, I showed the class before we dropped it off, and like they were so excited and they were so nice toward the custodians yesterday, like when they saw them in the hallway. And as part of the first 5 that I belong to, where I get an email every day with some like social emotional learning things to include in my slides, yesterday there was a video in there about like the life of a custodian, and it was a custodian kind of sharing like, hey, here are some of the things that I do through the day. So I showed that to my class just to kind of open their eyes to like, there's a lot they do behind the scenes that you don't even realize. And then moving on to academics, some things we've done recently that my students have loved. Let me see if I can find the paper, hold on. Yes, okay. So we did this yesterday for the first time. I got the idea on Instagram. I don't remember who shared it, but they called it Magic Square. So I just made this on Google Slides, but it is a 10 by 10 grid. And yes, there's a typo. This one says 2 instead of 27, because I'm an imperfect human and make mistakes. But the premise is you can pair it with any kind of worksheet. So I paired it with my students' workbook for math because it gets kind of boring to just do problems in a workbook. So this made it more engaging. I had them work with a partner, and every problem, after they worked together and solved it, they got to come back to me. I would check it, and if they had it right, they each got to sign a square. So they would just put their name in a square, 1 person per square. They're like claiming that territory. And then at the end, I spun a wheel to randomly pick a number between 1 and 100, and whoever's square that was got a prize. So it was very simple, but my students were so into it. I set a timer, I think for 15 minutes. And toward the end, when there were like 2 minutes left, they were all like trying to get in as many problems as they could so that they could sign the square. So that went really well. And I love simple things like that, where it's not a lot of prep on my part. All I had to do was print the paper, but it makes it more engaging for my students. Today, we are doing an investigation in science, which we never do on Fridays. We typically do investigations on Mondays. But the investigation we're doing today that I was planning on doing Monday, yesterday I had to move it to today because I got an email saying, hey, Monday we're gonna do a bunch of 504 meetings, and so you will be in a meeting not during your planning time. Usually they're scheduled when our students are at specials and we have planning time. But on Monday, they're gonna be doing 504 meetings all day, which means I'm gonna be attending meetings not during my planning time. Therefore, someone will be in here covering my class, and I need my students to be doing other things like independently during that time to leave for whoever is covering my room, and an investigation does not fit that description whatsoever.
I could have done this investigation in like 20 minutes.
So yesterday afternoon, I had to quickly shift gears and move the investigation to today so that Monday I can give them independent work to do. But my past self did something that my future self was very, very grateful for. So today's investigation is all about separating mixtures. So each group will be given a variety of tools. They have a magnetic wand, they have a sieve, they have an extra bowl, they have a cup, and then obviously their hands, and then this bowl of mixed up matter. So in here is sand, salt, the two different colored kind of aquarium pebbles, paper clips, and then there are some little metal kind of balls in there as well. And their goal is to try to separate the different materials or substances using those tools. Rather than being given step-by-step directions, they have to kind of figure it out and decide what tool to use to separate each different part. Now, yesterday afternoon, suddenly when I realized I had to get this ready for today, I was stressing out about it because I remembered from last year that it was, a lot of materials to get out. But when I went into my little investigation kits from last year, I realized that when I cleaned it up, I literally took this whole bowl of mixed up matter, put it into a Ziploc baggie. So I had individual baggies for each group already ready to go. So all I had to do was dump it into the plastic bowl and then pull out like the magnetic wands and the sieves and put it on the trays. And so I was able to have it set up in like 5 minutes, which I was just so happy. I went into my team teacher's room and I was like, I love myself. I remembered to do this last year and it made my life so much easier. So always try to think ahead and figure out ways that you can make your life easier the next time. But my team teacher brought up a good point. She said, well, instead of using the little metal balls, because they were kind of a pain to like get off of the magnetic wand, she's like, I'm gonna use paper clips. And I was like, oh, that's genius. But then I realized that the bags from last year, I already had the little metal balls in there. So this year, when my students take out the little metal balls, I don't think you can even really see them in here, but just trust me, they're in there. I'm gonna have them like keep them separate, and I'm gonna collect them and put them away so that next year it's just gonna be the paper clips because it's a little bit easier to clean up. But I'm excited to do that. I think my students will enjoy doing it on a Friday. It's something different. And then that way I know that it'll be done, and Monday I can just have something independent for them to do when I'm at meetings. So now the reason you're really here, let's talk about the transformation room, because we are also going there today. We are going for math because in the past, I only taught math and science. I'm so used to going during math time. I felt like it was easiest to be able to make lessons for the transformation room that fit math. And when I signed up, I didn't even think about, oh, I should probably go during social studies because it's Texas themed, and in 4th grade social studies, we focus on Texas. By the way, I got these little Texas flag stickers that I'm gonna give my students for their notebooks. That being said, I plan to take my class a second time to the transformation room to do a social studies lesson because it fits the theme. However, today we are doing math because that was the time slot that I signed up for. If you are not familiar with transformation rooms, I've explained this in prior vlogs, but a transformation in the classroom is basically when you transform the space to fit some kind of a theme. So you put out decorations and you have kind of interactive elements that really immerse students into a theme, and it's a way to make things more engaging. That being said, they can be very intensive. They can be a lot of work to set up, a lot of energy, they can cost a lot of money. I have been doing transformations in my classroom ever since I started teaching. I used to do them by myself in my classroom. It was a lot, but it's something I've always enjoyed and looked forward to. When I started at my current school, fell in love because they have a transformation room. It is a room in the school that parent volunteers come in, they set it up like 3 a year, maybe 4 a year, and all of the students in the school get to go. So each teacher can sign up for time slots, and it's just a more efficient way to do transformations because everyone can benefit from it, which I think is genius. I will put all of my transformation room vlogs onto a playlist, and I will link it for you. Last year there was an Under the Sea theme, a Winter Wonderland theme, and then kind of a travel theme where there were different countries. So go back and watch those if you're curious. But as I mentioned, the new theme is Texas. So let's start with a tour of the transformation room. So here's the door to get in, and I will warn you, I'm doing this somewhat rogue. I have glanced in here, but I have not looked at it in detail, so we're gonna explore it together. Once you come in, this is the back side of the door, and I'm gonna give you just kind of a 360 scan of the room. As you can see, it's kind of set up in some of the different regions of Texas and landmarks and areas, but overall, it's stunning per usual. I mean, when is it not? Every transformation room, I'm just absolutely blown away. I feel like I usually go right to left, but we're gonna go the opposite way today because when you first walk into the left, they have these cowboy hats, like straw type hats, and then they have bandanas for the kiddos to wear. How stinking cute. And then there are the bats set up, which if you're not familiar with the Austin bats, Google it. But we have this area set up with the West Texas ranches. And so you've got all kind of the paper decorations, things are painted. You've got some cacti, some blue bonnets, which is the Texas state flower. And then that leads us to Big Bend National Park, which I have not been to, but it's on my list of places to go. And you've got kind of that 3D because this is set up and then you've got the space behind it and you've got these lights over here, kind of coming back here. This is just an area where students can work. You've got some more blue bonnets back there, and there are lights here that I can turn on as well. Then we've got some tumbleweeds. I'm just always so blown away by their creativity when they set these up. We have the Permian Basin or oil field. So again, some more paper, painting. We've got kind of the oil rig set up here. And then as this moves around, we get to Tornado Alley. And that's kind of the setup here. We've got a big tornado. No words. But this is just kind of some fabric that has some paint on it and has been twisted and then is attached to the wall. And like, look at the details, y'all. Look at it. It's so cute. And then just to kind of show you over here, we have the Kinney Falls, and then there is a table back here where students can work, but that's kind of the view from here. And then as you come around the other side, we have Texas Hill Country. First of all, look at this armadillo. It's so cute. And then you've got some more blue bonnets, you've got Barton Springs, and you've got like the little tiny stream coming down. So cute. Look at this. Like, this is a cactus and it's made out of paper plates. So creative. We've got more blue bonnets, rocks. We've got kind of the turf area. Because again, a lot of these materials get reused. So this like grassy turf gets used a lot. And then this says stretch the string to see how big a dinosaur's walking stride was. So there's kind of some interactive pieces. Then moving right along, there are 2 tables here for students to work from. Then we have the East Texas swamps. So again, they've used paper plates to kind of create the turtles. There's some snakes in there. You can see there are string lights that are attached that you can turn on. So creative, so cute. You've got the tree going all the way up to the ceiling. You can see these are like stamps that they've done on the paper. Oh my goodness. It's so incredible. I love it. Coming all the way around here, we've got some more bats. You've got, it's amazing. Oh my gosh, look at it. I think it's another armadillo. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, and then the frogs. Oh, love it. Then we have like the Gulf Coast beach area, and you'll notice like this flag, which can actually be raised and lowered, that was used previously for like a Mario themed escape room. So they do try to repurpose as much of the materials as possible. But here is the look of kind of the beachy area, towels where students can sit. You've got kind of the foldable chairs. And then coming over here, look at the pelican. Oh my goodness, and like the fish that are inside. There's sunglasses here that students can wear, more towels that are rolled up so they can take them out and use them. And then you've got the big, like extra large chair that I could probably have 2 or 3 students share. And then you've got like the fishing pole. And if you remember in the winter themed one, this was set up over by like the icy fishing area. Oh, incredible. So here is one more 360 of the room going all the way around. You'll notice there is no IFP or interactive flat panel, which is like the screen that we use in here this time, which is fine because I actually don't need it for today's lesson. Now I'm gonna be completely honest with you all. I signed up to go today like 2 or 3 weeks ago and then almost canceled because as you saw in my last vlog, I've been feeling very overwhelmed. And then this whole week, like I haven't really had planning time because I've had meetings every day, and every single night I'd go home and I'd be working until 10 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden, like it was yesterday and I was like, I still don't know what I'm doing for the transformation room. Like I just have not had time to think about it. I haven't had time to put anything together. And so I almost canceled my appointment. But then I realized, Michelle, you need to do what's best for your students. And that doesn't necessarily mean like sacrificing yourself to be able to provide for them, but rather looking at it from the perspective of what is better. To take them to the transformation room, it doesn't have to be an over-the-top lesson. It can be very basic, but they get to go and have that experience, or cancel because you haven't had time to try to make something super fancy. And I realized I need to take them. It doesn't have to be a complicated lesson. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but it's better for them to have that experience even with just a regular math lesson. And that's what I opted to do. So I fancified it just the teeniest, tiniest little amount. And we're gonna do a Nearpod lesson, which I have not done Nearpod with my class yet this year. So that in and of itself will be something different. And it was very easy for me to throw together. In fact, yesterday, my students were taking their science test for the end of our chapter 2 on properties of matter. And while they were working on the test, I threw this together. So it was not hard. And as a result, we are going to the transformation room. We're just not doing anything super fancy, but that's okay. Let me show you what we are doing on Nearpod. So since the transformation room is Texas themed, I said, all right, we're just gonna make a couple of slides that look Texas-y. Went onto Canva, added a little desert background with some cacti, put this scroll image, chose a font that looked like Texas, and called it a day. So the first slide just says, welcome to Texas. So when they join in the Nearpod, that's what they'll see as they find their spot around the room. What's great about doing Nearpod in the transformation room is my students can bring their Chromebooks. They can sit anywhere in the room, and then as I lead the lesson and change the slides, it automatically changes on their screens. And because there is no IFP in the transformation room right now, I don't even need like a main slide because I can do it all from my laptop. Then it's gonna go into a VR. So this is like a little 360 view of the Palo Duro Canyon in Texas. And that's something we've talked about in social studies. These are really easy to add. You literally just search the name and click insert and it pops it in. So love Nearpod for that. Go over the objective. I just kept the same math lesson that I was planning to teach today. So we are multiplying 2-digit multiples of 10 by 2-digit multiples of 10 and kind of introducing them to the area model. Then we're gonna do our fluency practice. Now, usually these, my students are either writing it on a whiteboard or just calling it out. So I made them into interactive activities. This is a matching activity, so different expressions, and they're matching it with the product. Then it goes into a little multiple choice. So they are choosing the expression that equals that product. Then I have a fill in the blank, so they have to match each of these into the spots. So those were super easy to throw together. from our usual fluency slides. Then we have the application problem. Now, the application problem comes from the curriculum, and I don't remember what it originally talked about, but it was not Texas themed at all. So all I did was change the words of the problem. I kept the numbers the same and the setup the same, but I made it Texas themed, and it's gonna talk about visitors at the Capitol and visitors at the Alamo. So I added this VR of the Capitol, and then I added VR of the Alamo. And so they'll kind of get to explore those, feel like they're immersed, and then I'm giving them the problem. So there are 400 people visiting the Alamo. The Capitol has 4 times as many visitors. How many people in all are visiting both places? And this is a draw screen, so they're able to go on and like work it out on their screen and submit it to me so I can see their work, and then I can project students' responses and we can talk about it and discuss it. Then the second part of the question, so once they figured out that the Capitol had 1,600 people from the previous step, then introducing them to Big Bend. It has 5 times as many visitors as the Alamo. How many more visitors does it have than the Capitol? Then going over some of these patterns, and we've been talking about these throughout the week, so getting them to realize those zeros. And this is just an image I made in Canva, and then I converted it to a draw it, so students will be able to write right on here and fill in that spot. So we're gonna do a couple of these, and then this one, like they're gonna fill in all of them. We're gonna do a time to climb. So this is just a little interactive game. I was able to insert questions that they will answer like this, and it makes it into a game where like they have rankings and whatnot, so the kids are super engaged in it. Then talking about the area model, showing them an example. Why do you think it would be called an area model? I added in an open-ended question that they'll respond to. And when I put these questions in there, I also insert the image so they have it to reference. And then going through some more examples, having them set up the area model. Again, this is a draw it slide, so they'll be able to draw right on the screen, submit it to me. I can push them out to student devices, we can talk about them. They'll do a couple of those, and then they're gonna do a graded assignment because that's what I was planning on doing today. So you'll notice over here, I have the things I'm gonna bring with me. So I'm gonna bring this caddy, which has dry erase markers, little erasers, and pencils. I'm gonna bring that with me, and then this is their graded assignment. I'm gonna have them bring a clipboard so they can complete this. When they finish, they're gonna do this partner practice. So these are just in page protector pockets, but it's powers of 10 war. So basically they're gonna have a deck of cards. They're gonna work with a partner. Each partner will draw 2 cards to fill in those spots. So like for this one, they'll draw 2 cards, fill in the numbers, draw 2 cards, fill in the numbers. Whoever has the bigger value once they solve wins that round. And then by the end, whoever has won the most round wins the game. So I do need to grab decks of cards and bring those with us. But pretty minimal materials that I'm actually bringing with me to complete the lesson. Basically, they'll need their Chromebook, they'll need a clipboard, and I think that's it. So as I said, it's not fancy, it's not super engaging, it's really just a math lesson that I threw into Nearpod to make it more interactive. But as you saw with Magic Square, it doesn't take much to increase engagement. It's just these little things that we do to kind of keep it fun and novel and different, and that's all it takes. So this was a lesson to me to not overthink it. It doesn't have to be some extravagant lesson, but it's still better to go and provide my students with that experience rather than just doing what's most convenient for me. As I mentioned, it took me 10 minutes to throw that into Nearpod and I was ready to go, and that's much better than canceling. So that's the plan today. We're going to the transformation room for math. We're doing a science investigation. We're doing a normal, well, no, we probably won't even have time for social studies because it's also Friday, which means we have study hall time. Therefore, we lose out on 15 minutes of social studies time. And that's probably good because then that means extra time for the science investigation. But just some other things that have been taking place since we last vlogged. Yes, you're a part of this with me. Conference stuff is all set up. I've been slowly, knocking out a few here and there. As I mentioned, I've had a lot of meetings. So today is my first day where I have actual planning time this week. Yay, excited about that. I've been starting to prep for my 3 days of subplans next week. And ideally, I will vlog and kind of talk about what I'm doing for that. Stay tuned because who knows, I could get super overwhelmed and just be like, no, I don't have time, but that's the plan, at least as of now. What else has been going on? Oh, that other compliance module released. I think I mentioned that in my last vlog or 2 vlogs ago, but then it wasn't actually released that day. However, it was released this past week on Wednesday, and I got it done the same day that it released. So I could check that box off of my list. Oh, we had our first house day on Wednesday. That was so much fun. We did our whole group house meeting. We did small group house meetings, and I did the exact same activities as last year. So I read them The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors. We played Coconuts, which is like a variation of Rock, Paper, Scissors. And then I taught them Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe. If you want more details, I vlogged last year on house day, so I will link that video. You can go back and watch it. I did the exact same thing this year, and then I shared it all with the sub that is in for my Switch teacher, so that way it was easy. Like, I didn't have to prep extra stuff for her. I was just like, hey, here's what I'm doing, copied over the slides into her slideshow, and she was all set up. But that's gonna be it for this vlog. I've gotta kind of clean up my back table, and then we're gonna have a great Friday. I can feel it. So originally, I had actually ended my vlog this morning, but then now at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? There's some stuff I wanna fill them in on. Okay, so first of all, remember when I said, oh, I have planning time today? Yeah, no, I had another meeting that I had forgotten about. Let me turn this off because I know some people find it distracting. So regardless, it was a great day. I felt like a ping pong ball, just bouncing here, bouncing there, like all over the place because we were trying to squeeze in so much.
I call it ping pong.
But it was a really good day, and you can tell because I'm smiling and like I feel good versus feeling like I'm dragging, which I often feel on a Friday just because by Friday, it's been a long week and we're all tired. So I am proud of not only myself, but more importantly, my students, because we got through the science investigation both in the morning and the afternoon. Now the morning, I figured we were gonna get through the investigation because we didn't have social studies today, and so we had extra time for science, although it was funny because we finished the investigation and we got all of our communicating results questions answered, and then I was like, oh, we have, like 15 minutes of extra time before we have to go to lunch. And I was like, let's go ahead and get, packed up, ready for Switch, and then go to lunch. And my students are all like, we have study hall right now. And I was like, oh, I forgot. It figures the one time I'm like, oh, I'm ahead. No, I'm just forgetting things. But in the afternoon, I wasn't fully planning on doing the actual investigation today. I was just gonna do like the chapter launch and then get them to glue in their investigation sheet to their notebook, have them come up with their plan so that on Monday they could hit the ground running, do the actual investigation. But I was like, you know what? I'm confident in them. I think they can do it, and we got through it. Now, we didn't have as much time to talk about it afterward in the afternoon class compared to the morning, but it's fine because we'll do that on Monday. But I want to brag because this is one of those situations where you may be skeptical to do an investigation like this with your students because you worry that they're going to be able to like clean everything up and it's going to make a big mess. And I always joke with my students, I say, we're not making Beach Emerson, okay? The sand needs to stay in the tray, but like, here's how a group returned their tray. Like, I have not touched this since they put it on the counter, and it looks fantastic. Like, they got all the sand out. It was great. And I had my morning class remove those little metal balls like I had described. And in the afternoon, no one found any. Like, I warned them, hey, there might be some of these left in there, so if you find any, let me know, and no one found any. So I think in the morning, they did a great job, and now next year, we're just gonna use some paper clips, and I think it'll make it that much easier. But I'm happy because now I can clean this up before I go, and then we'll have kind of a fresh start next week before I leave, because as I mentioned, I'm out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I wanna make sure my room is as together as it can be before I go. Transformation room was awesome, and I loved it because a lot of times last year, by the time I took my students, they had already gone in reading, and so they already knew the theme, whereas today it was my students' first time going, and therefore they had no idea what it was, and it was like a big surprise, and they were super into it. And the Nearpod lesson, like the amount of time was perfect. They loved it. It went really well. I already looked over their graded assignments from today, and like they nailed it. So I'm really happy with how it went. And I forgot to show you this morning, or rather I forgot to point it out, but there was a section where it was kind of like the thunderstorm set up on the wall, and they had like lights where it was projecting thunderbolts onto it, lightning bolts. Okay, maybe it has been a long day, and that was really cool. And then my students kind of found some other things along the way. The cactus, I was over by the beach, there was like a ring toss game. So when we go in social studies, I can definitely make it a little more interactive, but today it was just about getting them there, and in hindsight, I'm really, really happy that I did what I did. And even though the lesson wasn't super extravagant, it was fantastic. So I think that's it. I think now I can actually end the vlog. I just wanted to check in with those couple of things. I did not get a chance to hand out the stickers for social studies, but it's fine. We'll do that on Monday. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.